All right, we are live. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Let me just quickly adjust my mic and make sure everything is good. Perfect. All right, if you're new to the channel, welcome. I am Chris with Monsters Under Our Bed. We cover true crime, mystery to the missing. Today we're going to be covering the Ellen Greenberg case. This is the first time covering this case, but there's new updates, and this is a case that's happened back in January 27th, 2011. So we're looking at, 13 years now? So a long time. If you're not familiar with the case, let's see, we got a poll going on right now. So it looks about 60-30. 60% of people have heard this case. If you haven't, it is wild. And we'll go over the timeline. There's a strange 911 call. But in a nutshell, this poor lady was stabbed 20 times and they ruled it, of course I can't say the actual word, self-inflicted. Just absolutely bizarre. And so we're going to break this all down and then go over the new information. Just a couple things we always like to get back by featuring the missing. And today we have, actually let me pull up the other one. This one's better. This is Elijah Reese. This poor gentleman, just 17 years old, missing out of Woodland Park, Colorado. He went missing, where's the date at? July 24th. So we're looking at about 2 weeks now. He was last seen at 4:30 a.m. at 1400 block of Crown Road, Woodland Park, Colorado. Again, just 17 years old, brown hair, blue eyes, 5'8", 160 pounds. He was last seen wearing dark clothing, and this is his vehicle here, which is a Honda Pilot. I think it's a 2017. Does have some damage on the driver's side on the rear, so that would stick out, but here's his license plate, CVT C46. Make sure you guys can see that. So it's possible he could be driving around in that, but I think it says that he has some kind of mental disability, so that's always a concern. So if anybody is in Colorado or around those states, because he could be traveling to other states, keep an eye out for poor Elijah Reese. All right, let's yeah, let me pull this up real quick. One more thing before we get into Ellen Ray Greenberg's case. As I noted earlier, I am starting a new channel, a paranormal channel. Even though I will have two channels, this will be my main channel. It's just something I'm going to do once a week, just one upload a week. But I love the paranormal, and unfortunately, when you're trying to make a career, you got to kind of stay in one lane, one niche, and you know, I've tried before to kind of do paranormal videos and mix of true crime, but a lot of times you get two different crowds, and so it's just easier to split them up into two channels. So anyway, my first video is coming out tomorrow. If you're a member of Patreon already put it out on my page, and a member, as soon as this live's over, it will be uploaded the second I get off, so you'll be able to watch it a day early. So the link to that channel is at the top, and let's get going. Now we're kind of about 50-50, so that's interesting. We're getting more people in here. Thank you again for those that are taking the time to watch the show. We'll break this case down in the timeline. There is a lot of crazy stuff in this case if you haven't heard it. A lot of stuff to talk about. So let's get going. Let me just quickly grab this. Tom, good to see you. Hello, Mob Crew. Hope everyone's having a great hump day. Thanks for all your great content. Thank you so much, Tom. Amazing supporter. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much. It does help to support this channel. So thank you so much. All right, let's get into it. So this is Ellen Ray Greenberg. Just 27 years old at the time of this case here. I'm just trying to adjust it a little bit here. So a little bit about her background. She enjoyed her job. So she was a first grade teacher at the Unita Park Academy. I hope I didn't butcher that, which is a diverse school in North Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Ellen had been handpicked by the principal to be there when it had opened 4 years earlier. So she had been there for 4 years. Ellen was dedicated to her students and her career, earning 2 master's degrees, all while teaching full-time. I mean, that's amazing. To be working full-time and still doing school, that's got to be a lot of pressure. And to pull that off, that's truly amazing. I believe she's an only child. Again, it's tough when you start a new case because there's so much. Of course, when it's, this case happened, over a decade ago, there's so much. So continuing on, Ellen and her fiance lived in the Venice Lofts in Venice Island, just outside the city. Sadly, on January 27th of 2011, she would be found with 20 stab wounds in her chest. I put in her chest, but on her body actually is what I meant to put. I apologize, but technically over 20 stab wounds, but truly horrific. Go forward. Oop. There we go. Wait, nope, there's one more before it. Sorry. This goes a little bit faster than I had anticipated. So Ellen and a television producer, Sam Goldberg, had met 3 years earlier, and they had just gotten engaged the past summer. They had a date set for August 2011, and Ellen was neck deep in wedding planning. Sadly, of course, on January 27, 2011, Sam Goldberg, her fiance, was the one who found Ellen's body. After having to kick in the front door, there was a security latch to the apartment. We'll break the timeline down even more. This is just kind of just a little kind of recap. He would make a 911 call, which we'll listen to, which according to some, his behavior on the 911 call sounded off. And it is truly odd. Although Ellen was found with 20 stab wounds, her cause of death, according to the ME, now although there'll be more to this, they labeled it a self-inflicted. Obviously, I can't use the one word because YouTube doesn't like it. Obviously, this was a huge shock to the family, and we'll dive more into this as well. Moving on, just looking at chat here. Welcome everybody that's coming in. If you can, hit that like button. So here's the timeline, and we'll listen to the 911 call in a minute. So on, that actually is the wrong date. January 27th, I must have typed 6 and not 7. January 27th, 2011, Ellen had headed to work as usual in the morning. Somewhere around 7 to 8 a.m. I'm assuming school starts because here it's like, I think just after 8 a.m. for first graders. She spoke with her mother during the 15-minute drive to her job. Her mother said Ellen sounded upbeat. Now that day they were anticipating a big blizzard, so they actually had closed the school early. So this is a little after noon sometime. So Ellen headed home. She stopped at the gas station around 1:30 p.m. and was back at her apartment shortly after. Now, at around 4:45 p.m., Sam, her fiance, had told Ellen that he was going to work out in the complex gym. So if anybody's not familiar with apartment complexes, a lot of them will have, not all of them, but a lot will sometimes have gyms, a pool, and different amenities. So it looks like he was there, but he was technically, not in the actual apartment, but in a different building nearby, working out in the complex gym. During that time, apparently Sam was texting Ellen multiple times. She did not answer. In those text messages, he clearly seems frustrated. But then he returned apparently 45 minutes later. he had found the apartment door locked. Now, he had a key to it, but it also had one of those security latches. If you don't know what I'm talking about, if you've ever been in a hotel, those ones that are, kind of at the top that got, one's connected to the door, one's connected to the frame, and you latch it, as an extra precaution. So he had the key, but obviously if that's latched, he can't get in. So apparently he kicks this door in, but there's a huge issue with that. T says blizzards and yeah, that is kind of weird, huh? Especially out in the east, right? Yeah. That is kind of interesting. You mentioned that. Dom, good to see you. Subscribe to the new channel. I see some other people saying that as well. Thank you so much, Dom, and to anybody that's subscribed to the new channel. I will do a community post on that. So here's some pictures. Now, I kind of blurred, well, it's not blurred, but I used kind of a black marker. This was the crime scene here, which we'll obviously dive into. This is the security latch, but we're going to definitely break this down because there's a huge issue with this thing right here. Just a huge issue when I first saw that. As soon as Sam got into the apartment, he saw Ellen. She was in the kitchen. So this picture here is the crime scene photo, and we'll kind of look at it closer. Again, I've kind of made it so it's not, triggering. She was apparently laying on her back, her head resting against the corner cabinet, so almost kind of like in a seating position. Now keep that in mind because this 911 call that we're going to listen to, clearly red flags. She was also covered in blood, of course. So here is the 911 call we're going to listen to. I think it's about 4 minutes long. This, of course, is Sam, the fiance, calling 911, and his behavior is off. And the things he say do not add up.
Help! I need a murder now. I just walked to my apartment. My fiance's on the floor with blood everywhere.
What is the address?
4601 Flat Rock Road. Please come help
4601
now. Flat Rock Road.
Is this a house or apartment?
Oh no! Oh no! It's an apartment.
What apartment number?
Please hurry, please.
Where is she bleeding from?
I don't know. I can't tell.
So you have to calm yourself down in order to get you some help.
I'm going to be honest. So there's two 911 dispatchers that talk to him. This first one's I'm going to be honest, a little rude. But he ends up talking to I think a firefighter dispatcher, I believe.
I'm sorry. I don't know. I'm looking at her right now. I can't see anything. There's nothing broken. She's bleeding.
How would you tell if there's something broken? I mean, unless her arms, or her bones sticking out. I'm just so weird.
Ellie!
You don't know where she's bleeding from? Can't tell
Ellie!
where the blood's coming from?
I think her head. I think she hit her head, But it's everywhere.
Okay, so
it's everywhere.
Think she might have fallen? Do you know what happened?
She may have slipped. There's blood on the table. Her face is a little purple.
Okay, hold on for rescue for her. Stay on the phone.
So now it's going to be transferred to another person, and then this is where it really gets strange. Let me know how the volume is. Let me know if that's too loud.
Philadelphia Fire Department 842. What's the address? No.
4601 Flat Rock Road. Please hurry.
4601 Flat Rock?
Yes.
What's wrong?
I went downstairs to go work out. I came back up. The door was latched. My fiance's inside. She wasn't answering. So after about a half hour, I decided to break it down. I see her now just on the floor with blood. She's not responding.
Okay, is she breathing? Look at her chest. I need you to calm down, and I need you to look at her chest. It's really.
I really don't think she is.
Listen to me. Someone's on the way. Look at her chest. Is she flat on her back?
She's on her back, so I bring her.
Look at her chest and tell me if it's going up.
So listen to one of the things he just said. She's on her back, but when they find her, she's kind of like in a sitting position, like she's sitting on the floor, but her back's against kind of like the cabinets or whatever. But he's saying that she's lying on her back. Red flag.
Up and down, up and down.
I don't see her moving.
Okay, do you know how to do CPR?
I don't.
Okay, I can tell you what to do, okay, until they get there. I want you to keep her foot on her...
God.
Hello?
Yeah, hi, okay.
Are you willing to do CPR with me over the phone until they get there?
I have to, right?
Okay, so get her flat on her back, bare her chest, okay?
I have to, right? I mean, now, the one thing that I'll give Sam, although this just red flags everywhere and it's just going to get worse, we did have somebody, I forget her name, who, follows this channel, and she was a retired 911 operator, and she said that typically males were calmer than females, when it came to emergencies. She did mention that. That's not all the time, but she noticed that was kind of more what she had experienced. It was interesting to hear her insight. I wonder if she's in here. It'd be nice to get her insight on this.
You want to rip her shirt off. Okay. Kneel down by her side.
Oh, my God. Ellie, please.
Listen, you can't freak out, sir, because you
Okay, I'm trying not to. Her shirt won't come off. It's a zipper. Oh, my God. She stabbed herself.
Oh, my God. She stabbed herself. I mean, how would you know that? I mean, if I came in and I saw someone stabbed, now I think the knife's in her chest right now. So I don't know how he didn't see that. That's something, if anybody knows this case, he makes it sound like she's got, some kind of, zipper vest on. And somehow this knife was hidden in there. But yeah, if it's sticking in her, it'd be out. And so how did he not see that just by, immediately? So that's another red flag. And again, if I walked in, and I saw my loved one with the knife in her, I wouldn't think she stabbed herself. I would think someone just killed her. Like, it makes no sense. And I'll just play that back right there.
I'm trying not to. Her shirt won't come off. It's a zipper. Oh, my God. She stabbed herself.
Where?
She fell in a knife. Oh, no. Her knife's sticking out.
Oh, no. The knife's sticking out. I mean, this sounds just ridiculous.
What?
There's a knife sticking out of her heart.
Oh, she stabbed herself?
I guess so. I don't know where she fell on it. I don't know.
Okay, well, don't touch it.
Okay, so I just let her down. Here now? I mean, what do I do?
No, I mean, you can't. If the knife is in her chest, it's going to be kind of hard for you to do CPR at this time.
Oh, no. Oh, my goodness. Okay.
Police, which operator?
277.
Is someone coming here?
Yes, they are. You said 4601 Flat Rock, right?
Yes.
Okay, someone's on the way. And the knife is still inside?
Wait, so what?
The knife is still inside of her?
Yes, I didn't take it out.
Was it her chest?
Listen to the way he said that. Like it's almost like he laughed.
It's still inside?
Wait, so what?
The knife is still inside of her?
Yes, I didn't take it out.
Was it her chest or what?
He literally laughed. I didn't take it out. Oh my God.
Area that
It's in her chest. It looks like it's right in her heart.
Okay, someone's on the way out there, okay? Just get
Oh my God. Okay.
How old is she?
She's 27.
27. And there's no sign of life at all? Like, pinch her to her arm.
No, please don't be. What?
Pinch her under her arm and tell me if she responds to pain.
Ellie. She's not. Her hands are still warm. I don't know what that means, but there's blood everywhere. I mean,
I know, but you can't, and the knife is still inside of her. How far? Can you see how far it went in?
it looks pretty deep.
Okay.
It looks it's a long knife.
Don't touch anything.
Yeah, don't touch anything, okay?
I'm not touching anything. I can't believe this, though.
So wait, it was just you there with her?
We're the only ones here.
And she ran in the door, you said latched it shut?
No, I went downstairs to work out, and when I came back up, the door was latched. Like it was, it wasn't like it was, it was like locked from the inside.
And we're going to talk about that latch because I don't know how the officers could get this so wrong. I mean, there's a little blame to go to the medical examiner. He should have stood his ground. And we'll talk about that for those that don't know what I'm mentioning. But, Jesus Christ, that's all I can say.
And I'm yelling. So I'm
Was your house
yelling.
broken into?
No.
I mean, how does he know that? Like, he just got in there. I know he had to kick down the door, allegedly. Now, apparently, I think they're like on. So, I'll show the building here in a minute. It's a tall apartment complex. I think she's like on the 6th floor. So, for anybody to climb up, I'd say it's near impossible. But still, you don't know, like,
Was no sign of a break-in?
No sign of a break-in at all. I mean, there will be when you get here because I had to break the latch, but to get in.
Okay, 4601 Flat Rock, and this is a house, right?
It's an apartment. Flat Rock apartment.
Okay, that'll help.
Oh my God. All right, thank you. Bye.
Yeah, so let me know your thoughts, and then we'll move on. Let me get to chat real quick. But, there's so much to break down. The door latch itself, there's huge red flags. And as a matter of fact, somebody did a reenactment. I don't want to get too ahead, but we'll look at that and show you the huge red flag. Just looking at the photos. And if you've ever... Now, I'm not an expert, but I did put up door frames for a little bit, like a short temporary job. That I did. So I did have a little experience putting up door frames and how they work and how fragile they can be. And anyway, I'll explain all that here in a bit. Jackie says, doesn't sound very panicked. Yeah, and that's the only thing I'll say that, like I said, we had somebody that's, a retired 911 operator, and she obviously had been, I don't know how many years she had worked, but I know we'd listened to 911 calls, and she said that, she noticed that males were typically more calmer. So, it was a little bit harder to gauge. And she didn't say that was all the time, but she just noticed it was a little bit more often than not. Tom says, how long ago did this happen? 2011. So, and yeah, so 13 years, just over, so it was January 26th. I don't know why I had January 27th written down, so I apologize. So yeah, 13 years. This guy sounds guilty as could be. Horrible actor. Could not agree. It's so many huge red flags. He says she's lying on the ground. When they find her, she's sitting, again, like I said earlier, she's sitting upright. So to even get her position to do the CPR, you would want, obviously you can't do that if she's sitting upright. So yeah, a lot of red flags. Peggy, member for 16 months. That's so awesome. I followed this case from the start. It's so sad how long her parents have had to fight for justice. Yeah, so this case is hitting the news big time, which is why we're covering it today, because this poor family has been through hell and back trying to get justice for her. This guy hasn't been interrogated. I don't know. I could only break it down so much. If anybody knows in the chat if they ever did like an actual interrogation, I didn't see one. But yeah.
Inside the apartment, police found no signs of an intruder or that Ellen tried to...
Jackie says, I try not to judge too much on others how others react to trauma, but he doesn't seem like he's being real. Yeah, there is it's off. And then when you learn that what he's saying doesn't line up with what was there, then that's just even more red flags, How in the hell do you not see a knife sticking out, He claims he's unzipping her, like apparently she's just got kind of like a, an extra shirt on with the zipper. And, he zips it, and all of a sudden this knife protrudes out, and it's in her heart. Like, clearly that would be sticking out. It sounds ridiculous. And then to say, oh, she stabbed herself, like, not even hesitating, just, oh, she stabbed herself. Like, that would be the last thing, like if I broke in and I saw a knife in my loved one, I'd be like, who in the hell, there's a killer. Like, yeah, I just cannot see how these guys screwed it up so bad. So I'm going to take a little bit from this guy, credit to YouTube channel, just.lounge. He's, many other channels have covered this case, but he did a really good video. So I took just some bits and pieces from his channel, so I have to give him credit for some of this narration here.
Flee. Her body was in the kitchen just inside the front door with her head, neck, and shoulders propped up against the corner cabinets. There was no blood spilled anywhere beyond the kitchen.
Now this is another thing that we'll talk about later. The amount of blood did not match up with the wound she had. And we'll talk about that later. But she was in the kitchen here. So here's just kind of a smaller diagram. Looks like a 2-bedroom apartment here. Here's the entryway. So you would... So if you went through the door, the kitchen would be right to your right. So that's, where she would have been at. Now, apparently she was making fruit, or cutting up some fruit. But that's the floor plan there. This is
Announced
kind
dead
of
at
reversed.
6:40 p.m. Despite there being no suicide note, the crime scene was treated as one. The apartment door had been locked by a solid bar door guard, which was pulled out and hanging by the screws, clearly having been forced by someone, Sam presumably, breaking through from the outside.
So we're going to break this down, but I'm just going to mention just a few things right off the bat. And I found clearer pictures than this, which was great. But if anybody's kind of worked, done carpentry, we'll see a huge issue right away. And that is, out of the two things that came out, this causes me concern. The one that is screwed into the door. And it looks like this is actually backwards, the way they installed this. Typically, you have this part installed into the frame, the frame, and this one on the door, from what I understand. I don't know. Maybe you can do it both ways, and I guess they still work. But anyway, notice how this one is the one that supposedly got kind of punched through. But look, it's almost like it was pried with a flat, like somebody pried it with the flat screwdriver. Anyway, huge issue, because if anybody's worked with, frames, they're very fragile. And even though you connect them into a stud behind this, the screws are not very long. Now, I'm sure you could get longer screws, which if I was going to do something like this, I would probably have longer screws so it goes into the stud more. But out of the two that broke out, this is not the piece that I would think would bust out. And I'll explain that more later on.
He remained on the scene and was very helpful to police. The apartment was well kept and tidy. Investigators reviewed Sam's key fob records and security videos to see if everything matched what Ellen's fiancé had told them. They said it did. The videos also showed no signs of unauthorized access of entrances by anyone around the time of Ellen's death. There were also no defensive wounds found on Ellen's body as an indication of a struggle.
Thanks so much, Ren, for hitting the like button. I appreciate it. So here's just a couple. Like I said, she was stabbed over 20 times. There was like 20 stab wounds, and then there was these wounds that were very shallow, and we'll talk about that. But again, and they're saying that this is self-inflicted, saying that somebody's taken a knife, and they want to take their life, and they're stabbing the back of their neck and their chest. I mean, why not just, don't do this, but if you're going to do this, why not just cut your wrist? I mean, why put yourself through this? I mean, this makes no sense at all. I mean, if you got the will to do this, I mean, why not just slit your wrist? But don't, please, I hate even mentioning that, but you know what I mean? Like, this is so stupid. And some of these wounds in the back of her neck
The 10
are
stab
very
wounds were identified.
controversial. Miranda Lee, good to see a member for 16 months. That is so awesome. I love the mob crew. Thank you so much, Miranda. Good to see you. I hope you're doing well. Tom N with another $5. I wonder what his sense of urgency was that he felt busting down the door seemed like the right move. What town did it happen in? This was, now I'm not familiar with that kind of area, the eastern side of the United States. It was Philadelphia, North Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I believe that's where it was. I'm trying to think of the town. Remind me in chat. I'm sorry, but thank you so much, Tom.
In the back of the head and the side of the scalp that police began to question their initial assessment. Medical examiner Marlon Osborne conducted the autopsy.
So this is the guy that conducted the original autopsy, and he would originally rule this as a homicide.
On the 27th of January, he identified wounds labeled.
So again, like I said a little bit earlier, not only did they find these, 20 stab wounds, but they also found these shallow stab wounds, which are really odd. And then also she had no defensive wounds. Now this would be something that obviously the law enforcement working the case would kind of use as, as a way to say, hey, look, she had no defensive wounds. If this was her getting attacked, she should have, had some kind of defensive wounds. But not all cases like this have defensive wounds. What they call this is what they call a blitz attack, where the attacker attacks the victim so fast that they just don't have time to react. And anyway, we'll get into more as to why she may not even had defensive wounds, and why there were lack of pool of blood.
But these were in multiples and not a single wound. But 10 are located on the back of her neck.
It truly is.
Some were nicks, not very deep, but others penetrated about 3 inches deep. He records the manner of death as a homicide. So police returned to the apartment to have another look around, but even after doing so, they refused to reverse position to match the conclusions of the medical examiner.
So law enforcement, the team working on it, they were fixed on this was self-inflicted. And there'll be some more stuff that they find, and we'll talk about here in a minute, to kind of help support their theory. And so, here you have the medical examiner originally saying, hey, this is a homicide. The detectives say, no, we feel like this is clearly a cut case of self-inflicted.
Say it's suspicious, to be sure, but convincing.
And so they ended up getting them to change the cause of death to self-inflicted, which is absolutely terrible, which is really kind of unheard of. Usually the medical examiner is the one that has the final say. So really strange that here they are persuading him to change it to self-inflicted. Tom Mann says, how is this guy not in jail? Unbelievable. Keep in mind, so he was a film producer or some kind of producer. So he had contacts. I'm sure he had some money. And we'll talk a little bit more about Sam as well.
In the months leading up to her death, Ellen had not been quite acting herself. Her parents noted a marked change in her demeanor from the bubbly and outgoing daughter they'd always known. Ellen had become anxious and unsettled. When asked about it, she mentioned only stresses at work. Everything was fine at home. But when Ellen asked her parents only months before her wedding if she could move home with them, it raised some red flags. Sandy suggested she see a therapist for anxiety, which she did.
So, yeah, I'm sure a lot going on. Clearly, they got a wedding to plan. Who knows how much, was she doing more? Was she more involved in the wedding planning, and felt like he wasn't doing enough? And was that creating, complications? And then, of course, she's got, her career as a first grade teacher. And so anyway, before this happened, she was kind of, experiencing anxiety, which, you can't blame her, with all that going on. And so she ended up seeing somebody, and so they would give her a prescription of Klonopin, and Ambien to help for sleep. So Klonopin is for anxiety, and Ambien is obviously to help you sleep. Yeah, injuries from behind. Yeah. And we'll look at somebody trying to reenact that. Oh. So, yeah. So the police, the reasons for ruling this as a self-inflicted and not a homicide was, looking at her past history. And there's more to it as well. But saying that, she's going through anxiety, maybe depression. And, so this is kind of, leads to their theory that this was just her, just at her breaking point.
She was anxious. She was found in a locked apartment with no evidence of a struggle. Neighbors would tell police that aside from Sam banging on the door, there had been no sounds of a disturbance. No other person's DNA was on the knife. Detectives believed the shallow punctures on her body were test or hesitation wounds made as Ellen considered stabbing herself to death.
Yeah, so that's what they call them, test or hesitation wounds. So beyond the 20 wounds, there was like little prods around her body. It just sounds so weird.
In addition, a search of Ellen's laptop returned traces of a series of searches performed relating.
So they also found, so her computer was, and this is another huge no-no, they didn't secure this crime scene. They had, obviously, the fiance there, and then the fiance's uncle come. And anyway, they had also done some research on her computer. And they did notice that there was apparently, keep in mind, apparently searches for the S word, the self-inflicted word. But one of them down here, I know it's probably kind of hard to see. I do apologize. But one of them said, painless self-inflicted, but the other word. So, if you're looking up painless taking your life, and then you do this, it doesn't add up. And then there'll be other talks about how this information was gathered and how it was interpreted, and yeah. So, like I said earlier, she allegedly looked up painless self-inflicted. Then they also found, again, keep in mind, this is 13 years. There's a lot to go over, but I can only, break this down into an hour and a half show. But we are going to break down a lot. It's Gail's birthday. Happy birthday, Gail. Thank you so much for your amazing support. I hope you have a wonderful birthday. You deserve it. Amazing supporter of the channel. So another thing, along with many others, is they found a stream of dried blood that had run across her face horizontally, not vertically. So keep in mind, she's found, allegedly, she was found in kind of a seating position, as we talked about before. But yet there was this streak of blood that had run from her ear to her nose. Now, that would kind of defy gravity, which meant that when that happened, she had to have been laying down, in a position where gravity would obviously cause that. So that clearly didn't add up. Yeah, computer would store her searches. Now, could the fiance have had access to her laptop?
Contention was the possible damage to Ellen's spinal cord.
And could he have been searching those up when she wasn't looking or when she was asleep, and kind of started building, kind of a story to build with her depression, that could easily occurred.
That could have left her incapacitated and unable to inflict the subsequent wounds on herself. Initially, the autopsy report had a single line relating to this potential injury. It read, "Neuropathologist Dr. Lucy Rourke examined the spinal cord and concluded there is no defect of the spinal cord."
So this was huge. So yeah, in the report, there was just this one line that he mentioned that came from a doctor, I believe it was Dr. Rourke, who is a neuropathologist. And because one of the wounds had actually gone into close to the spinal cord. And according to that sentence, that particular wound, according to her, would not have caused any major defect. But that would be a huge issue later.
However, when contacted directly, Dr. Rourke, a well-respected, now retired neuropathologist, stated
concluded that it was a suicide based upon a report that he said came from a Dr. Lucy Rourke, which he cannot produce, which nobody has ever produced or seen, which she, Dr. Rourke, says she never did. And it is referenced in one sentence in the report that Dr. Osborne does that then changes the finding from homicide to suicide.
According to the detective from the original investigation, the police had been told that the spinal cord sheath was hit, but the cord was not severed. They were told as a result of this that Ellen most likely went numb, thus allowing or enabling her to stab herself repeatedly.
Which sounds ridiculous, and we'll learn that actually that was not the case, that this kind of stab wound that deep would actually not caused her to go numb. It would actually caused her to experience even more pain and nerve issues. And so again,
an expert consulted in 2017 by the Greenbergs disagreed. Her injuries, the report says, would have given Ellen severe pain, cranial nerve dysfunction, and traumatic brain signs. These injuries were not enabling. They were more arguably incapacitating.
So these guys, so obviously as years goes on, decades go on, science improves. They were able to recreate every stab wound, because obviously 20 plus stab wounds, a lot to break down, especially where each stab wound occurred, how deep it was is very significant. And so they were able to, use technology to kind of really break down what things would be, with each stab, how much damage in that particular area would cause, which just really kind of opened up a lot of interesting details. And here they would actually label each of the stab wounds. They would give them a letter. So you can see here, stab wound 0 of neck. They explain it, how deep the wound was. Just kind of reading it here. And yeah, stab wound P of neck. Again, talking about how deep it was. And just other details. So very detailed on each stab wound, how deep, what kind of damage would that cause, and really just kind of opened up the investigation. So here's somebody just kind of reenacting trying to stab, imagine taking a steak knife or something like a steak knife, and I'm gonna kill myself. Oh gosh, I gotta be careful saying that. I'm gonna take my life by, a steak knife, and I'm going to stab myself a bunch of times in the back of my head. It just doesn't line up. I wonder if there's any cases that are legit self-inflicted that way. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if maybe someone's attempted to do that. But I'm sure it's very, very rare. Because, I mean, just look at this person attempting that. It looks so uncomfortable. And depending on how long the knife is, would you be able to get enough force to, create the wounds that she had in the back of her neck? And where did she start? Did she start stabbing herself in the chest and the neck? Did she, it just sounds so ridiculous.
So what do the Greenbergs believe really happened to their daughter? How could she have been the victim of foul play while alone in a locked apartment? The only other way into the home was via the balcony, but it was on the 6th floor during a heavy snowstorm, and the falling snow had been undisturbed. The front door latch that had been...
And we're going to talk about this latch here in about 10 minutes. And love to get your guys' insight, especially if anybody's worked in construction or carpentry.
Forced open from the outside by Sam proves, in theory, that Ellen was in the apartment alone. The Greenberg team has argued that there are multiple videos online explaining how to manipulate a swing bar lock from the outside. Now, I've not seen any of these, but that's probably true. In addition, there is reason to believe that the relationship between Sam and Ellen was less joyful than she was letting on to her friends and her family in the months leading up to her death.
There were various injuries on her body that were indicative of bruises and healing.
Okay, let's go back. So, they're bruises.
So, for those that are not familiar with case, this is the mother here, and this is the father of Ellen Greenberg, obviously, who's been fighting for their daughter's justice for well over a decade, and now they are finally getting, finally getting some traction in her case, which we'll kind of discuss at the end of the video, but truly amazing. So you probably see a lot of people, especially the media, talking about this case, because this could be huge, especially if they can get it ruled, switch from a self-inflicted to a homicide. I'm assuming that would reopen the case, and yeah, it would be huge. So I'm going to play that while I check chat.
All over her body, and those bruises were from maybe days, weeks before she was attacked.
They weren't part of that night.
Were not part of that night.
If you know anything about this type of problem, it's very unlikely that the victim is going to say anything to you. Mm-hmm. And we think she was a victim.
So here's another thing that we're going to start talking about, and the family mentions she had many bruises on her, which happened clearly before the homicide. These were bruises that were, not from the attack itself. These were prior bruises, which, yeah.
The medical examiner also noted that Ellen's body had bruises in various stages of resolution and found marks indicative of...
Yeah, various stages of resolution. So, obviously, the timing of the bruises when they happened.
Strangulation. These injuries have never been explained.
There was evidence of strangulation. This will be huge because, as we talked about earlier, there was an issue of the amount of blood or lack thereof compared to what happened to her, with 20 stab wounds. You would think, and I hate to say this term, it would be kind of a bloodbath, sadly. But that was not the case. And why would that be?
There's also been speculation that Sam's family may have been able to sway the police investigation due to their connections. Sam's uncle, a prominent lawyer at the time, who is now a judge, was granted access to the apartment to collect Ellen's belongings following the police's departure. Sources have stated, but it's not been confirmed, that the evening of Ellen's death, Sam called his uncle, possibly, it is believed, before he even phoned the police. According to investigator Tom Brennan, the crime scene, including Ellen's computer and cell phone, was left unsecured with the property owner and building security manager in the apartment until the medical examiner arrived.
So this guy and possibly his uncle are now in there, and they're waiting for the medical examiner, and so they're just able to kind of walk around and contaminate the crime scene to all hell.
The apartment was promptly deep cleaned, and it was Sam's uncle that was allowed entrance to retrieve Ellen's cell phone, work laptop, and personal laptop. He did not.
Why is he retrieving these items? This should be a crime scene. Nobody should be allowed. The second these first responders got there, everybody should have been kicked out of that apartment. I mean, this is 2011. I mean, this isn't like in the 90s or even early 2000s. Like, this is 2011. They clearly should have had procedures in place that should be followed, and allowing people to be going through the crime scene and collecting items that could, be huge, important details for the case is just mind-baffling.
Promptly returned the items to her family at Ellen's funeral as they had wanted. What he did manage to do, all is not lost. The Greenbergs filed a lawsuit based on what they say should constitute new evidence to have the Philadelphia Medical Examiner's Office officially alter Ellen's manner of death once again to either undetermined or, ideally, to homicide. In October 2021, the case was heard in court. Marlon Osborne, the original medical examiner, was deposed.
If it could be proven that one or more of the wounds that Ellen sustained could not have been inflicted by her.
Objection.
Would you agree with me then the manner of death of suicide would be improper or incorrect?
I would have to agree.
So that was the original medical examiner, and I think he's getting deposed. I forget what year that was. And obviously they're, kind of asking him, certain questions. And, you just heard that response there. So, as I mentioned before, there was also the issue that there wasn't enough blood at the crime scene that consisted with this kind of stabbing. This brutal, injuries that she occurred. And why would that be?
Here is that there's no hemorrhage.
So here is a deposition. I forgot to get her name and her. I'm assuming she's, some kind of expert.
Here is that there's no hemorrhage.
And in your experience, no hemorrhage can equate to the person having been deceased at the time of the administration of the trauma.
Yeah, in general, no hemorrhage means no pulse.
So she says, in her opinion, that there was no signs of hemorrhage, which means the victim had no pulse. So that would equate to why there would be less blood loss. Because when your heart stops, your heart's the one pumping the blood through your veins. So once your heart stops, your blood's not pumping, and it actually starts to kind of starts to kind of pull down. Gravity starts doing its thing because your body's not working anymore, and so the blood kind of starts building up depending on how the body's laid. I don't want to get it. I've heard some very graphic things, but yeah, once the heart stops, the blood is not going to be as much.
People without pulses do not stab themselves repeatedly.
Based on these hearings, the judge has allowed the Greenbergs' lawsuit to go forward to a non-jury trial, but no date has yet been set. In response to the family's pleas, the Attorney General continues to say they do not have legitimate new evidence and therefore no reason to reinvestigate the case.
Paul, I don't know if you are desensitized to it yet, if you've listened to it so many times, but I want to apologize. I hate dragging you through that, but it's evidence we cannot ignore.
Thank you, Nancy.
my perspective on this whole thing is the fact that we have worked so hard and done so much and now reached a really crescendo or epitome of success in some fashion, that this has made up or has softened the blow of losing our daughter. We still have that there, but instead of being in the corner and crying or howling like I do when I go to the cemetery, we have done something. And we have done something that no one else has ever done in a case like this, and we've gotten farther than anybody in a case like this. So what the hell?
Yeah, so I guess this is something that's never been done in this county, where a ruling on a cause of death has been challenged, and that's what it is. And they've been fighting for that for decades, I'm assuming.
Attorneys, Mr. Pedroza, Mr. Trask, we are very happy today in some fashion. I know that may not make sense to some people, that we should be grieving. We grieve, but we also have a mission. We have a purpose. And you can see in those pictures who she is. Recently, I've had two lawyers, one working for the state of New York and one working for the state, not for the state, one is a criminal defensive lawyer, tell me I should fire my lawyers, I should stop spending money, I'm not going to get anywhere. And as we're going to discuss today, we have really got this case as far as we can go in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, I believe. I'm not an attorney either.
Well,
And
I have to say, you do have a success today. For over 13 years, you and Sandy have been fighting this suicide ruling. And in the last days, a momentous turn of events. You've been turned down by every court, by every prosecutor, you name it. Sandy, in the last hours, you and Josh, Ellen's parents, have achieved something that has never been done before in that jurisdiction. And that is, you are going to be allowed, finally, after 13 years, to challenge the suicide ruling. Does that mean it's going to be ruled a homicide? No. Does that mean that there is a person of interest or a suspect? No. It means that there may be an investigation of your daughter's murder.
Correct. Yep. Which I never expected to get such great news and to advance this far, but I'm not giving up. She was someone that we were raising to be the best possible version of herself, and poof, she's gone.
Hey, Angie's. Okay, so let's talk about the door. Really excited, interested in talking about this because there is just some huge red flags, and we'll look at a recreation, and it did not surprise me at all on what transpired when somebody reenacted kicking in a door with this similar situation, because we can see here at the security latch, one pair, there's two pieces, obviously. One which typically has the 4 screws, the one that's got the kind of like the hook, I guess you'd call it, and that's anchored in with 4 screws. Now this is anchored in to the door, right? Now, the other one, now I've seen some where they're anchored off the wall and not on the door frame, or the trim, as we call it. The trim is really thin, pretty, in my opinion, fragile, because it's just a thin piece of wood. It's there to match the contour. You can make them really nice. Again, I'm not an expert. I just had installed some doors in my past, so I've had some experience putting the trim in around, and I know how fragile they are, because when I was clearly doing something new, I messed these, I screwed up some trim because they're very fragile. Now, this would typically also be screwed in. These screws aren't very long, so these screws would have gone in through this piece of trim, which I would say it would equate to something like the thickness of the phone from the side, I mean, anybody could go look at the trim, I think it's slightly a little wider than the phone. Maybe I'm a little bit, but it's not much bigger as far as thickness, right? And then obviously this trim, there's a stud behind it, a 2x4, like a 2x4, it's a stud. Now, typically you would nail gun the trim itself into the studs. But with the screws, they would probably go in the trim, and then they're not very long. They would probably go in the stud, but not very far, right? Whereas this piece here, it's drilled with 4 screws into a door, right? So unless the door would be hollow, it's a big giant stud, if you want to put it that way, right? So this thing's going to be much more reinforced than this trim. And if you're going to kick this in when it's in a locked position, one of these two are going to give way, And when I had saw that allegedly this one supposedly gave way, was a huge red flag to me. So here's a closer look at it. Again, the one that's got the long knob. I don't trying to think of the terminology, but as you can see, this piece has the 4 screws. This one only has 3 screws. There's many different designs of them, but most of them are consistent where, you got 4 screws on one and 3 screws on the other. So 4 screws on this one, only 3 screws on the one that's actually in the trim. Now this, even though I don't know if this is a real photo or not, it kind of looks fake. This, if I was to put one of these in, this is how I would do it. Especially if I knew there was, obviously if there was a stud in here. Or the other thing is I would put it in the trim, but I would make sure that I had much longer screws so they're in the stud very well. And for those that are wondering, okay, why does it keep going over that? I will explain that here in just a minute. So again, here's a typical door frame with the trim around it. They usually come in 3 sections. You got the top part, and then you've got your sides that come down. Usually they're pre-cut. You put them up. Then, of course, you have studs behind these that you nail gun into. And again, the trim itself is not very thick.
Very difficult for you, but in a...
So the issue with that, let me see where that's at. 1659. Okay. So here's a reenactment, and you guys know I love reenactments, and this would be something I would love to do. But this is Gavin Fish. He has a YouTube channel. I do enjoy his content. I would say if you're into true crime, he's covered this case pretty well in depth as well, and has done some amazing things. And here's him reenacting what happened by doing the same thing, and it was no surprise to me on what occurred. All right. Let's go. Gavin Fish here, citizen detective. Love that shirt.
Screws are kind of loose. I mean, it still has a bite, but I just didn't want to ruin our door and door frame. So I'm going to go ahead and try to break in. And Jackson, let's see what happens when we do that.
So again, like I said earlier, one of the two are going to have to give, you know. I mean, technically in a perfect scenario, maybe they both go at the same time, you know. If they weren't properly secured in, you could probably just knock them both out. But technically, if they're secured properly, one of them's got to give. And knowing how, working with trim for 6 months, I know how fragile that trim can be.
All right, you're good. Okay, you're good? Mm-hmm. All right, so...
So originally he tried to see if he could like alter it to see if he could unlock it, you know, from the outside in.
To his statement, he could, I guess he could open up this, right? It was this.
But the only
him out.
the only way you could really do that is you would have to kind of like pry this out a little bit, because you have to have this completely shut to allow, because there's only one spot when it's fully shut that the little ball on it is gonna fit through. So even just having it slightly open, you know, there's a reason they designed it this way.
So he would have been able to get the door open this far. So I'm gonna try to put my shoulder into this and see what happens, and then
yeah, he's a good guy.
See if my hypothesis is correct. I've never done this. I hope done here. Here we go. Ready?
Huh.
Wow.
That's no surprise.
Okay, well.
Look which one went. The trim. No surprise there. Again, and it even split the trim. It didn't even take the whole thing off. It just split. Like I said, so the reason why I know, you know, and I'm sure maybe there's different types of wood might be a little better. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not an expert in carpentry. I have just a small little experience, and I did work with putting doors up and door frames. And of course, being a rookie, I screwed some stuff up because, you know, I was learning and learned how a lot of this trim, at least that we were working with, was, you know, pretty, yeah, it was not very strong.
It looks like what I did to try to make it so that it wouldn't break was not good enough. So that's actually a little bit better of a, I guess, example of what would have happened, right? That it would have broken off. And the frame to his apartment, to their apartment, looks wood. It doesn't look like it's a metal.
And that's huge. I doubt apartments would put metal frames in. Again, I'm not an expert in construction, but I doubt apartments are going to kind of spend that kind of money. It would be a typical wood piece of trim.
Frame at all. So
trim, frame.
I think that had Sam Goldberg busted in the door, it wouldn't have been hanging like it was in the picture.
Yeah, it looks ridiculous. And I know Tom just put a comment that I'm going to read here in just a minute. Let me go see if I can get a shot of the screws. Let me back it up just a tad, see if I can see the screws here. Oh. Not a good one. Yeah, that's a good one. Okay, let me show you what I'm talking about here. Give me just a second, guys. I swear there's one more that... oh. Let me just play.
What would have happened, right? That it would have...
Yeah, you can just... oh, gosh.
Broken off. And the frame to his apartment, to their apartment, looks wood. It doesn't look like it's a metal frame at all.
Yeah, that you can clearly see. It's really tough. Let me just do this one here. There we go. Yep. Okay, so that's one of the screws going through. And so you can see And I think here's another screw, because there would have been 4 screws. So this would have barely gone into the stud. And I've looked at the screws. They're not very long. So they would go through the trim, but they would barely enter the stud, which is not very secure. So if anybody does that, and if you're going to put it into the trim, make sure they're longer screws and they go into the stud, because the stud is much more grounded and sturdy and would hold much better. So this is no surprise, because the screw is just barely sticking out, and so that's no surprise that happened. Yet we see that this is perfectly fine. At the very least, I would expect the trim in the frame to have some kind of damage in some form or fashion. It looks like, look how the paint, it looks like somebody took a flathead, kind of pried it, maybe unscrewed the screws a little bit, and then kind of pried it and then screwed the screws back in. Like, why is this even hanging up right here? This, if he knocked this in, one of these should have gone. Like, this should be laying on the ground somewhere. Like, this makes no sense at all. No sense at all. Let me know what you think in the chat. If you have any kind of experience in the construction, or but that just a huge red flag there. Sorry for the rant, but just working with trim and that kind of stuff just kind of really bugged me. And again, it would have been so easy for detectives to reenact that. How hard, you know? It's like, I don't know, $10 to get a latch, and you know, all you're gonna do is probably blow out a door frame. But that never happened. Let me get to chat here. I'm just gonna set this up here, and we got much more to go over. We got 120 people in here. Thank you guys so much. If you haven't already, please hit that like button. I also have at the top, I've got a second channel I'm doing, which is Paranormal. First video comes out tomorrow for the members. Please stay until the end, because I've got something special for you just before we finish. Let me get to where we finished, and then I'll get to Tom's comment here. Okay. Tom says, I think he made contact with the body similar to Little Girl Ramsey case. Law enforcement knows they'll have trouble beating this in court. Oh, right, Tom, right. Yeah, so, yeah, if there's any kind of touch DNA on her body, I think is what you're trying to say with the victim. Yeah, he was trying to give her, well, not CPR, but he's checking on her, so he's touching her. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, I agree. Totally agree. And then he's in the house after, contaminating the scene even more. So yeah, this does have a little bit of similarities to the John Benet Ramsey case, where they did not secure the scene, you know. Which is just, you know, should be a no 101 when it comes to crime scene lockdown and securing the crime scene so it doesn't get contaminated. All right, moving on. We got much more to go over.
I read an article long ago about the ruling, the suicide ruling. I believe I immediately called you, because how can anyone, stab themselves?
Now, I know some people are not a fan of Nancy Grace. I love Nancy Grace all in all. You know, the one thing I was really disappointed with the photo with her, the Brian Koberger thing. I really think that was a bad look. I think that was a huge no-no. People make mistakes, but she's been a huge advocate. You know, she knows firsthand, you know, her husband was sadly murdered, and she's been trying to fight for justice, and she was a huge voice for little Kaylee, you know, and so I love her work, and I love this guy Joseph here, Joseph Scott Morgan, just a brilliant mind in forensic, and I love hearing his insight into these cases.
20 times that we know of, and we also know about the phenomenon of overlapping stab wounds, where someone is stabbed in the same spot. We're dealing with that with Brian Koberger's case right now. So there may be more stab wounds, but I'm going to go with 20. I'm going to go with 20.
Sorry, Tom. One more. I meant to grab this. I saw this earlier. I think he loosened the screws, and I just said that before I read your comment. I totally agree. Yeah, he loosened the screws. No one possibly unalive themselves in this manner. Seems gross negligence by law enforcement and the coroner. Totally agree. Yeah, I said that, and I didn't even read your comment. I totally agree. He loosened the screws, probably did a flathead to kind of wedge it. Like, that thing should be just busted off. One or the other should have been busted off. Like, I just cannot see. Whoever was working this case should just be fired. I'm sorry.
How can you stab yourself 20 times? And I had to write these down in preparation for talking with you this morning, Joe Scott Morgan, when at least three of the stab wounds could be deadly. For instance, stab wound E, as in elephant, certainly fatal. Stab wound H, happy, fatal. Stab wound number 2, very likely fatal. Stab wound K had to be inflicted with a serrated abrasion. But I find that the wounds are diametrically opposed to each other regarding trajectory path. In other words, there are vertical stab wounds, there are horizontal stab wounds, there are oblique stab wounds.
So what she's saying, if anybody's not understanding, so she's basically saying that, here, let me take the pin, is she's saying that, you know, some stab wounds are, kind of regular, some are kind of coming in vertical, so horizontal, vertical, diagonal, it doesn't make sense. I mean, for somebody to take their lives in this manner. I mean, again, if you were going to go, if you're prepared in that to do something that extreme, why not, and I hate saying this, cut your wrists, or your femoral artery. It just doesn't
The one that bothers me the most, actually two, is the one basically on top of the head. How do you attack yourself on top of your head? And the wound where her dura of her spine is cut. How do you do that to the back of your neck? And then last and most importantly, some of the wounds were inflicted post-mortem, after death. Her heart was not beating. How can she keep stabbing herself? I mean, how?
So going back to the lack of blood, and we're going to talk about this here soon.
The thing about stab wounds, Nancy, is that every time an edged weapon is introduced into somebody's body, a pain center fires. So over and over again,
that's because following true crime, like that's one of my biggest fears is being stabbed. I mean, I can't imagine victims, that have gone through this trauma. It's absolutely terrible. But yeah, here in the autopsy, 20 stab wounds to the chest, abdomen, and back and neck. Incision wound on scalp. 10 stabs to the back of neck, ranging from 0.3 centimeters to 8 centimeters deep. One of the neck wounds cut through spinal cord. Multiple bruises and this was a big one. multiple bruises, and various stages of healing. So obviously that implies there was stuff going on before this incident happened.
Mentioned the number 20. So, and even for our listeners that are following this case, and many have for now these many years, you can identify with just a paper cut perhaps at home, and how painful that is. If you can imagine a serrated edge, and that's what we're talking about, just like a steak knife, okay? And it's roughly a 5-inch blade. You have to do the conversion from metric. Roughly a 5-inch blade. You've got this running along the surface. So let's just take,
see
for
Joe Scott
instance,
Morgan right now.
if
Okay,
you
Joe
just
Scott,
take,
slow it down for me.
yeah, sure. If
Go ahead.
one of the very curious things, Nancy, is the fact that you have a blade that is entering the chest, and there's a couple of these along the way where you're talking about the blade is going from right to left, then from left to right. And here's one of the really curious things. There's
Yeah, that's interesting. So he's basically saying that the stabbings. Well, I'm using my neck because you can't see my chest, but they're saying that they're coming in here and they're coming in here, but in the chest, like, if you were stabbing yourself, you would just think, you're just doing this, but they're saying that they're coming in at different angles. Not to say it's not impossible, obviously, for someone to do that, but clearly that raises more red flags.
One of these injuries that actually the trajectory takes it.
He says
upward,
2 knives
like
used. Ooh.
that. Okay, as opposed to
Which one is
another
that?
deflection.
Which one is that?
I'd have to refer back to my notes at this point in time, Nancy. But if you go to H, for instance, it's 4 centimeters deep, and you're talking about from left to right. However, if you go to, let's see, which one was it? I had it right here.
Wait, but I've got to ask you a very fundamental question. And this is from a lawyer, not a medical. Per fingernail scrapings ever taken? Do we know?
No, not to the best of my knowledge.
Jesus.
And that's
you have heard bandied about that there were no defensive wounds. What say you? And also, what do you make of markings on Ellen's neck and multiple bruisings across her body in various stages of healing?
Yeah, and we refer to those in forensic pathology as resolution. And so you've got multiple areas of small bruises, contusions that are in various stages of healing throughout the body. And that's certainly very interesting. And I remember asking Josh and Sandy years ago, I think we had a conversation. I said, did Ellen have a problem walking, or with her gait, or was there some kind of inner ear problem where she had some kind of problem with balance? She's bouncing off.
So basically, what he's trying to explain is, does she have some kind of medical condition where she's just falling into stuff and getting these bruises from, some kind of medical condition where she's just, falling into things and getting bruises here and there from whatever, clearly, I think a lot of people that are following this know where we're, what's really going on is that she was sadly in a DV abusive relationship, which is terrible.
Walls and furniture and all, and they couldn't come up. They said, no, that wasn't the case. So, why would she have? And I even wanted to know if she had some kind of disorder, blood disorder or something. Maybe she's just spontaneously bruising. I have no idea. But none of that could be proved.
Back to the markings on her neck. Weigh in.
Yeah, when we're talking about markings on the neck, Nancy, that's something that is so crucial relative to their current status at autopsy, relative to how fresh they are. Are they going through resolution at this point in time? And I think that it's very important in this case because the neck on anyone that is being stabbed is a point of contact where a perpetrator would place their hands on somebody's neck as a point of control in order to drive a blade into somebody's body. That has to be examined very, very carefully.
To Sandy Greenberg, what do you make of the fact that no luminol was ever used at the scene? The scene was cleaned by professional cleaners.
Oh my God, no luminol. I mean, nothing. I mean, what kind of department is this? I mean, they should all be let go. I mean, they should be all deposed. They should be investigated. I'm not big into big corruption, conspiracy stuff, although I do dive into a little bit, but this is wrong. I mean, this is absolutely wrong. Yeah, Sam, of course, being an executive producer for television, clearly had some money, and his uncle was a lawyer who showed up at the apartment, and there's a lot more. Obviously, I won't be able to cover in an hour and a half show that I wish I could, but I'm trying to get as much as I can for the full picture, even though there's so much more. Jennifer says, after the first stab, you would probably stop if it was you. I mean, yeah, you stab yourself like, oh, dang, okay, this sucked. I mean, yeah, yeah, it makes no sense.
Her fingernails were never scraped, and I firmly believe that there is evidence her body was moved before police or first responders got there.
I'm horrified that she was treated so poorly, and I'm embarrassed for the Philadelphia Police Department. They wouldn't do that to if any of their children were in this situation. They wouldn't be treated like this. She paid taxes, and she deserves the same justice and the same attention that everyone else gets.
Damn right.
Or should get.
Damn right.
I'm just very curious. John Lucy joining us, journalist, Penn Live, and the Patriot News of Harrisburg. Why her fingernails were never removed to see if she scratched anyone. How with a...
We know how huge that is. Like, just the minute details. And they had that, technology. Obviously, 2011, that's 13 years ago. But we were still much more advanced than we were in the 90s, when DNA was just slowly coming around. But 2011, I mean, they had all this stuff. Obviously much more advanced since then, but just rookie mistake after rookie mistake, and just gets to the point where, was this on purpose? Like,
straight face, a medical examiner how could he state she had 3 potentially fatal stabs and kept stabbing herself? After that, those debilitating stabs, how she stabbed herself in the spine, nicking the dura, and kept going. How she got stabs on the very top of her head, virtually impossible.
And I think I mentioned earlier that one into her spine, they were saying that, originally I can't remember which one said that, but implied that, if she got stabbed in that area near the spine, that would have created her to go numb, which would have allowed her to just continue, going to town. She wouldn't feel much, which just sounds absolutely dumb as hell. But now learning that if she had done that, or that did happen, that she would have felt actually more pain, and that, but as we move on, we're going to learn, and it's already been kind of hinted, that there is good possibility that when this blitz attack happened, and the reason why there was no defensive wounds, there's a good possibility at that time she was likely not alive or unconscious, because the lack of blood that was around the scene. And yeah, just want to mention thank you to all those that have donated. Let me make sure I didn't miss anybody as we go on here. Oh, I missed Gil, who's her birthday. Huge supporter of this channel, gives out memberships almost not daily, but every time we go live, which is so awesome, allowing people to get access to the behind the scenes stuff. Got tons of footage, tons of membership videos. I mean, tons. I mean, it could be a channel by itself with how much membership material I have. So thank you so much, Gil. And I missed this one. Today I'm 71 years young. That is so awesome, Gail. Congratulations. I hope you have a wonderful birthday. You deserve it. So sweet and amazing. Thank you so much, Gail. Again, there's plenty of ways to support this channel. Venmo, PayPal. I do have a GoFundMe. We do not only cover true crime, but we do actually go out and search for missing people. You can find that on the channel. But back to the story.
Possible? No luminol was done, and very, very significant, John Lucy. There was dried blood going horizontally across her face, dried that way. Yet she was found by first responders sitting up, slumped up vertically against the kitchen cabinets. The blood should have been going down, not across. That indicates staging, John Lucy.
Well, we call that the wrong way blood, and it's one of the many anomalies at the crime scene that was treated as a suicide scene the night of her death and thus never preserved and never processed. That is the original sin of this whole case, and that's why this case, even if it goes to the PA Supreme Court and is ruled that it can be reinvestigated as a homicide, likely never ends in a
Yeah, I just want to go back because, yeah, I thought the same thing, Tom. When you look at that,
reinvestigated as
look how it's like the paint. It's almost like the paint. It's kind of like pried. Like he kind of like maybe unscrewed the screws a bit and then kind of pried it to make it. Because obviously if he just unscrewed it, that wouldn't look right. So yeah, it looked like he probably took a flathead and probably just kind of pried around it, and then left it in. I mean, it looks like it's like clearly there's nothing holding, there's nobody holding it up. So this thing is still attached. Like, how in the hell? Like, these detectives are no detectives. They are in the wrong field. My goodness.
Homicide likely never ends in a perpetrator being identified, because with the way that scene was handled, all that evidence was erased. As for that Dora and that the spinal cord specimen, that was preserved from the original autopsy, but it was never fully sectioned and photographed until many years later, after the Greenbergs kept up their own investigation. And Galino finally turned that Dora over to another assistant ME. She processed it, she investigated it, and she's the first one to put on the record in a sworn deposition that the spinal cord wound had no bleeding associated with it, meaning it was a post-mortem wound. And that is...
So how can you stab yourself if you were dead? How can you stab yourself if you were dead?
All on the record in the sworn depositions that the Greenbergs have secured as part of their lawsuit.
The body of Ellen Greenberg is transported to the medical...
All right, so we just got a little bit more. I know we're going a little bit longer than usual, but we're almost done here, and we got a couple of big things to announce at the end. So, oh, I know why I got 27 and 26 mixed up. Is she's 27, and then it happened on the 26, and I think I was mixing those two numbers up. That's what probably happened.
Examiner's office with a knife still lodged in her chest. Dr. Marlon Osborne discovers Ellen has been stabbed 20 times in the chest, neck, and head. 10 of the stab wounds are to her back and neck. 8 of the stab wounds are to her chest. Dr. Osborne notes that the knife embedded in her left chest is through her clothing. Ellen Greenberg is wearing 2 shirts when she is stabbed, and the defects in the shirts are consistent with the underlying wounds.
Wait a minute. Wait.
Chest. Dr. Osborne notes that the knife embedded in her left chest is through her clothing. Ellen Greenberg is wearing 2 shirts when she is stabbed, and the defects
is through her clothing. Listen to that right there. That's huge. They should have, like, so it sounds like she had a shirt and then, another shirt with the zipper, on it. And clearly, if you had that clothing, there would be 2 holes in both shirts or whatever, that are on outside of her, because obviously the stab came outside. In the 911 call, he says he has to unzip her, unzip the one on top, and then the knife, all of a sudden appears. I mean, how in the... I mean, I want to swear right now. Like, this just seems like just 101, like, just common sense. Common sense in this. Literally, common sense.
And the shirts are consistent with the underlying wounds.
And more significantly, listen.
Performing the autopsy on Ellen Greenberg, Dr. Marlon Osborne notes that beyond the stabs to the back and the neck area, Ellen also has a 2-inch stab wound to her stomach and a 2.5-inch long gash across her scalp. Ellen also has 11 bruises all over her body, her right arm, leg, and abdomen that are all in various stages of healing. Dr. Marlon Osborne rules Ellen Greenberg's death a homicide.
I don't understand so many aspects of this case, but Sandy and Josh Greenberg breaking their silence now. How could Ellen, who is right-handed, stab herself repeatedly in her right arm? How? How do you, with your right hand, stab yourself in your right arm? And who could keep stabbing themselves after 3 fatal stab wounds?
The whole thing is just I can't say it on the air, but it was just a big mess.
I don't blame him.
It doesn't make any sense. None of it makes any sense. The fact there's 2 knives makes no sense. The fact that the way the wounds are make no sense. The fact she has a
Thank you,
wound on
Peggy.
the top of her head makes no sense.
Sandy, why is it so important, as you've stated in the past, to clear Ellen's name? She's already lost her life. Why is it important to you that her death be fully investigated?
Well, there's 2 reasons, and I'm sure obviously the family knows. Obviously, justice for her. But plus, there's a killer. I mean, likely her fiance, Sam, I'm sure there's a small possibility you could say there's somebody else that could have done it. But, with the way he acted on the 911 call, I think that throws... any other possibility of a different killer, and this guy has gotten away from it this long, and I think he's married and moved on. I was looking up some of his, like what he's been doing since all this. I only looked at it for just a second because I had so much going on, but yeah, he's moved on. I think got another family, enjoying the life. And if he's involved in this, like, this bastard needs to be put away.
It's wrong. And for me, I need to be able to lay my head on my pillow at night and know that I did everything I needed to do. And this is very important to me.
Why do you believe, Sandy, that anyone would want to cover up the true nature of Ellen's murder?
When we were being deposed by the city for the lawsuit, I had 5 different attorneys questioning me and insisting, trying to put words in my mouth and insisting upon this being a suicide, which it clearly wasn't. I was just so, professionally speaking, I would be so ashamed of myself if I were them.
Yeah.
There are 2 reasons. A, the police did a lousy investigation. B, someone's being protected. I can't think of any other reasons.
Yep, right there.
We wait and we pray that justice
will
unfold in the murder of Ellen Greenberg. We stop now and we remember American hero Detective Sergeant Mason Griffith, just 34, shot and killed in the line of duty. He is survived by a grieving wife, Jennifer, and sons, Trevor and Jason, sentenced to life without their father. American hero Detective Sergeant Mason Greenberg. From we to 9 o'clock sharp Eastern. Please.
Okay. So, just final thoughts. Let me know what you guys think. Just got a couple more things, and then we'll finish up. Sounds guilty as hell on the 911 call. Yeah, I'm just going to touch on that one thing here where he finds the knife. Okay, remember, they clearly say she is stabbed through 2 pieces of clothing. She had 2 pieces of clothing. So she had a shirt on and, maybe a light sweater that zips up, whatever. And they're clearly, she's been stabbed through both of those, right? So the knife is clearly sticking out. It's not hidden under the second one that's zipped up, because you'd have a knife sticking out. And I'm trying to, you'd have a knife sticking out. And if you had a shirt, it just wouldn't, makes absolutely no sense. Clearly it went through both. So, imagine this is my chest. So, there'd be something sticking out right away, right? Oh, sorry. Okay, we'll play it from about right here. Oh, yep, here it is. That's where I'm looking for. This is crazy.
By her side.
Oh my God, Ellie, please.
Listen, you can't freak out, sir, because you.
Okay, I'm trying not. Her shirt won't come off. It's a zipper.
So he's clearly trying to say, oh, she's got a zipper, trying to figure out, what's going on here.
Oh my God, she stabbed herself.
And that's the first thing he says without hesitation. Oh my God, she stabbed herself.
Where?
She fell on a knife. Oh no, her knife's sticking out.
She fell. Wait, she stabbed herself and then she fell on a knife, like back to back. Nope, she fell on a knife. She stabbed herself. She fell on a knife. Well, no, her knife is sticking out. I know it goes by fast, but if you actually break it down, it's like holy shit.
By her side.
Oh my God, Ellie, please.
Listen, you can't freak out, sir, because you.
Okay, I'm trying not. Her shirt won't come off. It's a zipper. Oh my God, she stabbed herself.
Oh my God, I got a gift. That's what he sounds like. Like he just got a package from Amazon. Like, oh my God, I got a gift.
Where?
She fell on a knife. Oh no, her knife's sticking out.
What?
There's a knife sticking out of her heart.
Oh, she stabbed herself?
I guess so. I don't know where she fell on it. I don't know.
Okay, well, don't touch it.
Okay, so I just let her down. Here now. I mean, what do I do?
No, I mean, you can't. If the knife is in her chest, it's going to be kind of hard for you to do CPR at this time.
Oh, no. Oh, my goodness. Okay.
Police, which operator?
277.
Is someone coming here?
Yes, they are. You said 4601 flat, right?
Is someone coming here?
Right?
Yes.
Okay, someone's on the way. And the knife is still inside?
Wait, so what?
The knife is still inside of her?
Yes, I didn't take it out.
He laughs. I know I played this again, but one more time. How?
Is someone coming here?
Yes, they are. You said 4601 flat, right?
Yes.
Okay, someone's on the way. And the knife is still inside?
Wait, so what?
The knife is still inside of her?
Yes, I didn't take it out.
Was it her chest?
I didn't take it out. Silly me, Oh my God. How did the detectives in this, oh God. A 5th grader could figure this out. I mean, holy shit. I'm sorry to show that, but Jesus Christ. I'm sorry, pardon my language. I was blown away. I've heard the 20 stabs, but never had a chance to look at this case and just, holy good Lord, man. Yeah, this is a terrible cover-up. People, they need to be investigated. People need to be fired. People need to be exposed for this. Again, I'm not a big conspiracy, like the Karen Reed stuff. I definitely don't think the prosecution had presented a case. But Yeah, no, I'll just leave it at that. But this is bad. Tom says these parents have gotten shafted. Yeah, so we'll just talk about that and then we'll finish up. I sure hope this delay is just an attempt to ensure justice is served. Same type of delay, I believe, happened in Delphi case by not arresting R.A. sooner. Possibly, yeah. Excuse me. Again, thank you so much, Tom, for the $10. If anyone did send like a PayPal or Venmo, please let me know in the chat so I can thank you, or through the GoFundMe. There are links in the description for those. But I can't thank you guys enough for just taking the time to watch the show with me. I just got one last thing to talk about before we finish up. Alan Hinkle, good to see you, buddy. Thank you so much for the $9.99. He says ridiculous. Yeah. I agree with many more other words that I could describe this. In my opinion, this is a total cover-up. Yeah, this is unjust. Now, I wish I had more time because obviously we've already gone way over an hour and a half than I typically go. But yes, they finally, through the Supreme Court, they are going to actually hear the case for it to possibly get overturned from, a self-inflicted to a homicide. The ball is rolling. I don't know if there's a date set. I don't know if anybody knows in the chat. Again, I didn't have a lot of time. Like I said, I was trying to focus on the main story. May do a part 2 on this because there's still a lot more. I mean, we really just kind of scratched the surface. There's more to this, a lot more that I wish I had time to break down more. Yeah, I agree, Tiffany. This just seems. Yeah, I mean, any person with just some common sense that this wasn't right. That this doesn't add up. Alan says you're more than welcome. Thanks for being great. Love this channel, people. Thank you. It's people like you that make this community amazing, and that goes obviously to everybody in here. Yeah, Tiffany's upset. Yeah, it does. It does get you worked up. I don't blame you guys. Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does. If you really break that, you could really break that 911 call down into just a video in itself with how much just bizarre crap he says. Yeah, I totally agree. So, again, I just want to say thank you to all my wonderful mods who do such an amazing job. To everybody taking the time out of their day to watch the show. I try to put a lot of work into the show, spend many hours before. I always like to be a kind of a visual presentation because I feel like a lot of people like that. One last thing is I have a second channel. Of course, this is just a secondary channel. True crime is going to be my main focus. This is just kind of a once a week upload. The first upload is going to be tomorrow, but for my members and my Patreons, they get that a day early. So technically, as soon as this show ends, probably give me 5 minutes and I will have that uploaded for the members. So if you love Paranormal and you're a membership and or a Patreon, that'll be uploaded here in just a second. So just a second I get off the live. It'd probably take me 5 minutes to put it up, but here is just a little teaser for the video that I'm putting out that'll come out tomorrow on my channel, which if you want to subscribe to it, the link is at the top. And here's just a sneak peek to it. It's just a minute, I think a minute 30-second clip.
I swear to God, this is not a joke. This is actually we terrified of it.
So there's 2 people or 2 subjects that are in your backyard?
Correct, and they're very large. They're like 8 foot, 9 feet, 10 foot. I don't know. They look like aliens to us.
Lucy. Hey!
Fire in action. Do you have any personal knowledge of people who have been harmed or injured in efforts to cover up or conceal these extraterrestrial technology?
Yes.
Welcome back to the Mob Crew Paranormal. I'm your host, Chris Hall. This story takes place in Las Vegas, Nevada, which is most commonly known for its lively casinos and Area 51. Area 51 is located just outside of Las Vegas and is considered a highly top-secret military base that allegedly contains aliens and alien crafts. It was no surprise that in 2023, a story would make headline national news.
Not only did what happened in Vegas not stay in Vegas, it circled the known universe.
On May 1st, 2023, the Kenmore family called 911 to report something that looked like 10-foot-tall aliens in their backyard.
Telling the operator that something from out of this world was in his backyard.
It has big eyes and looking at us, and it's still there.
So there's 2 people or 2 subjects that are in your backyard?
Correct, and they're very large. 9 feet, 10 foot. They look like aliens to us. Big eyes, they have big eyes, and they're not human. They're 100% they're not human.
Around that same time, many witnesses, including officers with body cam, saw what appeared to be a green light flash across the sky. This was also captured on ring camera nearby. Notice the loud boom. Officers would respond to the 911. So there's just a little clip of that for the members. Like I said, as soon as the show ends, give me about 5 minutes. It'll be uploaded for you guys. If you're Patreons, it's already there. And then with the new channel, I'll have it uploaded probably about 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So with that, I am going to head out. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday. You guys are so awesome. I love you so much. Please be safe out there. And again, if you would like, please share the links and stuff to the video. And with that, we're going to go ahead and play the outro. And we will see you guys Friday. And then for my paranormal guys, we'll see you guys tomorrow. And members, we'll have a video here in just a minute. All right, be safe, guys. Love you.